Right, CPR. The reason I'm talking about this is because recently there's been a big thing on news. We've probably all seen it, even though I don't follow football and I don't have a clue what it is. A footballer running around and he's had an heart attack on pitch, cardiac arrest, and he's literally gone over. And when me and my partner were watching it, as soon as he went over, his eyes were open, he was laid still, and we just said he's gone, he's dead. He's literally dead. When it turned out, all news conferences come out later on, it turned out, he literally died and he were gone. But they brought him back with CPR and that sort of thing. So a lot of people ask me, have I done CPR and how is it in real life? Because everyone that's done first aid training or CPR training have all done it on your resusciani or whatever they're called, where it's your plastic and click, 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 click. I've done it in about 19 years. I think I've done it in probably like 20 or 30 people, roughly about that many. The majority of them have died. Now that's not me being shit at CPR. It's just that it's such a fine line when people drop down dead or have an heart attack. It's such a fine line from CPR or heart massage, however you want to call it, or getting them on a zapper to get into hospital. It's such a fine line between life and death. That's why what they did with that footballer at the football pitch and sign was so good and so quick. That's why he saved his life. It's massively, massively important for people to learn CPR on all adults, small tots and babies and children, so to speak. Just to give you an example of what CPR is like, I've had it when I've been driving in Bingley Town Centre, and literally I've been sat there and someone's just gone buff. It's not Mrs. Miggins, it's Mrs. Miggins' sister, and literally straight over, and I've been there at roadside, and I'm straight out of the car, and then within 10 seconds, no pulse, no breathing, eyes have rotated in head, CPR, done and dusted, you're there cracking on. There's been times when you've got to help ambulance, you've got to a certain job in ambulance, say, or an RTC, and it's got to such a bad thing where rather than trying to extract them with the fire brigade there and cut the roof off, some people literally dragged straight out of the car and CPR on them at roadside there and then. And then what you're doing is you're helping the fast paramedic or the ambulance because they can't do everything all at once. So they'll say if you can do CPR on them, they'll get tubes in them, start doing oxygen, injecting this, that and other, and getting them ready to have bzz on them again. If you even know what bzz is, you know what I'm talking about. Stand clear, 200, rubbing paddles together and that sort of thing. It's not like that in real life. They don't rub paddles together and shout stand clear, 200, but they do shout stand clear. Most places now, if you see a defibrillator, it's all on school walls and that sort of thing. If you ring 999, they'll have the code of the defibrillator and the passcode to open it. Click it open the box, and it's so simple. It tells you how to do it. You don't have to be trained. It's one pan on one top, one on the side. Press the button. It self-charges, and it does. So if you can do that, and that needs to happen, do it. But doing CPR, one of them, I'll give you. Again, I can't tell you who he is, but the gentleman did something. Jumped from a bit of a high height, landed on the floor, and he was still breathing when we were there trying to tend to his wounds, and he went into cardiac arrest. He's technically died at the side of the road where he were, and we started doing CPR. So I'll give you an example of CPR. The more people you do CPR on are from an older age, so I'd say everyone from 50 upwards, more chance of having a heart attack and more chance of obviously dying, which is very rare that I've done it in someone, say, 40 or under. So everything about it is harder physically, and I don't mean for you, it's for them. So I started doing mouth to mouth, first person shouting, "Don't fucking do mouth to mouth, it's dirty, we don't do that anymore." But he had blood around his mouth, just didn't think, started doing mouth to mouth, I had blood all around my mouth. But in that time, sometimes you're just doing what you think's right, you train, but you think you need to get a bit of oxygen in his lungs. When you do CPR, it's normally, obviously, if you feel your rib bone there where it all comes together, it's normally 2 fingers up from the bottom where the rib bone meets, palm on the top, and then with me being between say 16 and 17 stone, the first push down, you're meant to go obviously say 3 to 4 inches down. The first push down, literally you can hear every single rib in the body crack, and it's bizarre because you think I'm hurting this person more than what I'm trying to help this person, but it's not. It's your ribs are are cracking regardless. That's all that happens. The more elderly what happens is all the ribs will probably crack downside, and this and your sternum just becomes floating in the body cavity on top of all the organs. So it's really bizarre because you put your hand on it and you go like that, and it's just floating backwards and forwards and side to side on their organs. And then it's obviously, it's normally 30, and they'll do either 32, or sometimes it changes, and you don't do mouth compress or mouth and more mouth breaths. You just do compressions, and they'll tell you. So if you phone 999, they'll tell you, and they've got a little thing that beeps or goes up and down. But if you've been doing it for a while and you train, you do it until you start an ambulance arrives. But say it's 30, you normally do it to a song. So we used to do it either to Night Fever, or there's certain other songs you can do it to. You can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's. I don't know. Oh, that's it. Staying alive. And you're doing the chest compressions. But every time you do it, you can hear more things crushing, more things moving. The body's gasping because the air's coming out and trying to go back in, and it's a bizarre thing to be doing, especially when you're doing it in front of other people outside the road. There's so much pressure on you to be doing it, and I want to give you this instance of how important it is. So I'm on patrol, get called to an RTC in Centre Ayrshire Plain. There's this massive crossroads called Fox's Corner. Gentleman's had an heart attack in the car, but he's had an heart attack from right at top of Fox's Corner, all the way through Fox's Corner. He's gone all the way past Noble Combe, and he's come to rest down by the Noble Combe pub. So the scene of it is absolutely ginormous. But I can't remember how many heart attacks he's had, but he's had loads. So the girl called Hannah, who got there before we got there, literally they dragged him out of the car doing CPR on him. And fast responder came, paramedic, and they got his heart going again, got him on defib and started him going again. He literally crashed and died at roadside again. So CPR again. I think she did CPR 6 times. They got him back 6 times before they could get him stable enough to transport him to hospital. He then got a as far as we're concerned, he's going to be dead. It's a fatal scene. We've set it all out as a fatal scene. We've cut Fox's Corner off. Bradford's come up to standstill. Leeds has come up to standstill. Everywhere for like 25 miles has come up to standstill because we've shut Fox's Corner off. We then get information that he's gone straight down. He's got a pacemaker fitted and he's fine. If it weren't for Hannah being there and then and doing CPR, that family would have lost the dad, brother, son, all in one. And it was for her dedication to the job. So if you're watching Fox, brilliant. It was her dedication to the job that got this gentleman going, and we put her forward for an award. I think she did get some sort of award for it all, because it was the fact of not stopping. And regardless how physically fit you are, doing CPR on someone for literally 5 minutes absolutely shatters you out. You are physically drained after 5 minutes. And normally you're going about 20 to 25, 30 minutes before they'll call life extinct. So if you're thinking you've got to sit there on your knees, full body armour on, and you're going up and down for 5 minutes, you've got sweat running down and you're fucked. And then that's why normally someone chops and changes with you. So paramedics say, right, I'll crack on. So paramedic cracks on. As soon as paramedic's tired, you crack back on again. And she was doing it over and over and over again until this bloke obviously got his rhythm back. They zapped him, and it was brilliant. So it's those little things. You never know when it's going to happen to you. You never know when you're going to be in that restaurant or you're going to be somewhere and someone's just going to keel over, and that someone can be anything from a baby up to a fully grown adult, grandma or whatever. And it's important that you know how to do CPR. So the best thing I can suggest is get first aid trained, get it done, and help save someone's life if need be.
When you're doing CPR, what is going through your mind at that point? Like, is there a mental struggle of like, do I stop or do I carry it?
Yeah, because I think if it were me, or one of my family members, I want someone to carry on all the time. I wouldn't want someone to stop. And then you think, just say for instance, like I said, it's Mrs. Miggin's sister, who's 72-year-old. She's gone from being a little baby, she's gone 4 or 5, first dance at school, first boyfriend, first serious relationship, you know what I mean? Maybe engagement, wedding, honeymoon, having a first baby and seeing baby grow up and say, living all this life, all these summers, maybe living through war and doing all this thing. Then it's down to you. You're the one that's going to either save her or not. And you've got all this woman's history, all her family, all her kids are at work doing what they do, all her grandkids are at school playing, and they're not knowing that it's down to you. You're the one that now is having their happiness or their destruction on your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, I thought this can't be asked. I'm going to meal in 10 minutes, it's not my problem, it's ambulance's problem. Or the fact of, no, you want that person to be living, so you treat it as though it's your grandma, you treat it as though it's your mum, your dad, or your child or whatever, and you do not stop until paramedics have come and done everything they need to do. And if paramedics call it, they've called it, because there's nothing at all that can be done. And unfortunately, that person's passed. But if there is, you crack on, you don't ever give up. And then by that time, you're joined by another. Well, I've had it so many times when I've been doing CPR on them, and I'm that tired, sweat's literally running off my nose. Member at Public's come forward and says, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, or whatever, I'll take over. And then they take over, you have a breather for 5 minutes, then you crack back on. But you think about all that history of someone's life, all what they've been through, every single thing, and it now determines whether they live or die because of what you know. And if you don't know CPR, you're just going to watch this person die. And back to that footballer, look at all love and support that's being thrown out for football. Like, imagine if no one knew CPR. Can you imagine if just no one bothered and he just fell over at the side of the thing and just died, and everyone just watched him die and no one did out? And look at all his family and look at everything he's tried to achieve in life and try to strive for. So it's massively important to learn CPR. And it might just be your mum, your dad, or your sister, brother, or your housewife or husband or whatever it is that's going to keel over in front of you, and as soon as you know it, you can save their life. And it's that first 5 minutes that's so important to get that oxygen back to the brain, get that heart pumping. Literally, no matter what you do, it's like when you're chasing a burglar or you're chasing a murderer or whatever, you don't want to stop because of what you're having to go through and what you're having to... So when you know it's this person's, it's literally life and death. You've got someone's life in your hands, and to have that feeling, it's like a feeling of like power, but it's not good power, it's negative power. It's not like going, oh, I am God, I am powerful. It's the fact of like, no, not me. This is not my. I'm not here to do this. I'm here to keep you going. So when you're doing it, you do not stop. And like I said, that's why sweat's, because your body's going on longer than you technically can do it for. Because if I said to you, do it now, just do this now, so many times on a ball, I'm not being funny, you'd probably do it for like 30, 40 seconds, and you go, God, tiring that. My arms hurt, my back hurts. Now I'm going to give you a £5 stab vest, fully loaded with everything on it, and then say, right, crack on now, and you've got to do this for 20 minutes. So yeah, definitely. And like I said, and then especially when they start beating again, you find a pulse, or they start breathing. But being honest with you, the majority I've done it on, they've all been that ill or that poorly, and they've literally just died, or they've literally died in the car crash, and it's other injuries that have caused it. So irrespective of how much CPR you're doing, it's not going to benefit them. But you're doing it because you're doing all you can in your power to make that person live. That's what your job is.
What impact does delivering CPR to someone who, say, doesn't make it have on you the following days and weeks? Like, does it play on your mind?
Yeah, it's hard because, like I said, that when that person was born and she went, just saw they went, I'm going to get married today and I'm going to I have my first baby today. That person that's going to be trying to save your life might not even be born for another 25, 30 years. And then when I am born, and it's bizarre because you think I don't have that right to be with that person and not be able to save a life, but I'd rather try 50% of what I know rather than stand there and just feel completely and utterly useless. And we all know these people that when you go to there's a scene or there's something bad going on, I don't know what to do, I feel completely useless. Well, you just don't coach then, you know what I mean? We all know that person that are just like careful, but you want to be that person that tries to help. But the hurt it goes on you is tremendous. And especially when, because a lot of families do want to meet you then, so they'll put a request in to meet you because they want to know that person that were trying to help the loved one. And that person who were, well, Officer Pearson or whatever, were doing CPR for 20 minutes trying to bring them back, then it's a bit more, they want to meet you and give you a cuddle. And that's even harder then because they're distraught, you're upset, and then they give you a big cuddle and you're thinking there's nothing else I could have done. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a surgeon, I don't have miracle hands. You're trying to the best of your ability, but sometimes some people are just not meant to come back, no matter what you try. But it's worth trying than just standing there looking like a lemon.
And I guess what does it feel like when the paramedics or whoever's on the scene declares
It crushes you when they declare life extinct. It crushes you because they don't want to do it as well. They get to a certain point when there's always either 2 or 3 fast responder and 2 paramedics, and they're all doing it, and everyone's no one just tips up and thinks, oh, bloody hell, another one. Everyone's like running around like blue-ass flies trying to get this person going, and then you can see one person saying, we're going to have to call it, and then, no, another 5 minutes. Right, and then everyone gets G'd up again, go on, and then you've always got one person that's got to be, I'm not being funny, not the leader, but the one person that's got to be like, right, we're done here, we can't go any further on this. And then when they call it, it's like, that's the point in history of time when that person stopped. That's the point when that either family tree could have stopped, and that's the point when you've got that devastation news you need, and you don't want to be giving that news. Just 5 more minutes. And it's really hard, especially when they go. But you just hold it on and you apologise to them. You just like, I'm so sorry, I couldn't do it. I'm so sorry I couldn't bring you back. And you've done it with dignity and pride. We've launched the Pearson channel. If you want to help out, please see the link below. Thank you.